interesting gospel today because it contains a passage in there that unfortunately many of us have failed to listen to. The question that the apostles ask Jesus is what many times we think is he was born blind. Now, so whose fault was it? Was it him? Was there something that he did? Or was it his parents? So many times we carry this same idea that we inherit these sins, okay? And the ultimate of that is original sin. And Jesus answers the question and said, no, but neither the parents nor the man who was born blind have sinned. This is done so that the glory of God may shine. So this is something that we should take from this gospel, is that, well, we should carefully discern from this gospel, is that diseases and things that come into the world and that afflict certain people are not the fault of the parents. Now, I said carefully discern because, again, depending upon what you choose to do to your body can then afflict you. If you decide that I want to do crack cocaine, and then all of a sudden you become sick, you have to say, okay, so whose fault is that? Is it my parents? No. I have made that decision. But excluding things like that, we do not, as Christians, because of what Jesus says, we do not believe that these sins are passed along from our previous generations. So we do not have this idea of original sin. And so we don't, when we perform the baptism, the Orthodox baptism, you never hear the words, "Cleanse now this your servant from his or her original sin," because we don't believe that that is passed on. What is passed on is death, is that death entered the world through the sin of pride of Adam and Eve. Now, that has been passed on, but there is no need to cleanse something that is good of sin. So I'm saying this idea of original sin. So God said everything that he made, he ended that in Genesis by saying it is good. So we have to start from that point. This is the issue that the Orthodox Church has with ideas like original sin, because it takes away that initial goodness that we have. What we believe as Orthodox is that now we have been tainted by sin. And now, because of free will, we have the ability to use it properly or improperly. Drinking, inappropriate sex, pornography, gaming too much, all of these things that can afflict us not only bodily, but can also afflict us spiritually. So now comes the second part of the gospel, is that Jesus is not just speaking about now the idea that he has restored this person's blindness. The first thing he did was to eliminate this idea of inheriting this original sin, and this idea that it comes from the parents. But the second thing he does also, as St. Paul will later say in his epistles, is that there is also a spiritual blindness. The bodies that we have do not belong to us. They are on loan. They have been given as a gift to us. Life has been given as a gift to us. And what God expects is that we will use that body properly for his glory. That's what it says. So that God may be glorified in him. So this is the purpose. This is our purpose here, is to use our bodies, our minds, and our souls properly. for our salvation. That's the goal. That's the purpose. So when these questions are being asked, who am I? What is my life? All of these 1970s questions about, who am I and all that. I won't use the term I'm thinking about. Okay. The answer has been clear for 2,000 years. The answer is you are the image and likeness of God who has been given life so that you may use that gift in an appropriate manner that glorifies God. Now we get an easy definition of sin. Anything that doesn't glorify God is sin. For the Orthodox, it's very simple. There's no separation of venial and mortal sins and all. None. We don't need any of that. The question, I just did something. Did that action glorify God? I smoked crack cocaine. Probably not. Answer, no. I helped my fellow man because I volunteered at Catholic Charities. Glorified God. I come and I attend church. Oh, slow down, because you were going to say, glorify God. No. What happens when you walk out the door? You come into the church, you receive communion, and then you walk out, and then on the way back, you're cursing out this guy who now cut you off in the lane. Rather than thinking, what's going on in that guy's life? Maybe I should now have a little bit more compassion. So it's not just coming to church that glorifies God. That's a good start. But the answer is what happens when you go outside that door. So we don't have to necessarily overthink this idea of sin. This is why Jesus says, I will come and I will give you the Comforter, because it gives us that consciousness. That consciousness tells us this action that I am about to do or that I have done does not glorify God. Now, I'm saying that out of much prior experience. So before priesthood, I thought, okay, I'm a pretty good guy. As long as I do good, generally speaking, follow the 10 Commandments, I'm golden. I'm going to heaven. And now I find out after going to seminary that unfortunately, that is not the only thing that I need to do. So the Orthodox do not believe that just being a good person gets you into heaven. I should have said just. It's not a bad thing, but it's not the only thing. There is much more to it than that. And that much more is that as Christians, we are given this greater responsibility of what sin is. And that's why the answer is what Jesus himself said, the actions that glorify God. Gossip. It's not one of the 10 Commandments. I'm good. Not given to the poor. Doesn't necessarily say in the 10 Commandments I got to give to the poor. I'm good. Harming somebody doesn't say I can't beat him up. It says I can't kill him. Doesn't say I can't beat him up. Not good. So Christianity now is that further extension from Judaism that says that you have to now clearly understand the implications of your actions. Gossip we consider to be a sin because it is murder, in that you are murdering now the spiritual component of that person when they find out the results of that gossip. And if you think that you can live in a Greek community and keep gossip secret, you are sadly mistaken. That will never happen. All right. So it's not wrong for us to speak about another person as long as we are not doing that action, again, that destroys or that blackens that image and likeness of God. So in this gospel reading, we have two very important ideas. Number one, that we do not have this idea of original sin, that these things are passed on from a previous generation. And number two, that Jesus Christ calls us to now remove or recognize our spiritual blindness and to look at what our actions are and judge them according to what is it that does or does not glorify God.